You did what? My voice came out sharper than I expected, loud enough to make the young woman at the hotel desk look down at her keyboard and pretend she could not hear us. My son Tyler did not even flinch. He stood there in his navy suit with one hand in his pocket, jaw tight, phone still in his other hand like he had been waiting for this moment all day. I cancelled your room, Mom, he said again, slower this time like I was the difficult one. I texted you already. You can stay in the lobby for a few hours if you need to. Check-in for everyone else is a mess. For a second, I truly thought I had heard him wrong. The grand ballroom behind us was being dressed for his wedding. Staff rushed past with flowers, linen, silver trays, and boxes with little gold ribbons. Somewhere deeper in the hotel, a piano was being tested, one careful note at a time. It should have been a beautiful afternoon. Instead, I stood there with my overnight bag in one hand and my purse cutting into my shoulder, staring at the son I had raised mostly by myself, trying to understand how his mouth had formed that sentence. Stay in the lobby, I repeated, at your wedding hotel. His fiancée, Vanessa, stepped closer beside him and folded her arms. She had a perfect face for photographs and a cold voice for real life. We had to make adjustments, Diane, she said. Rooms are limited. My cousins flew in from California. Tyler agreed family from out of town should come first. I looked straight at Tyler. I am your family. He rubbed his forehead like I was giving him a headache. Mom, please don't do this here. Do what? I snapped. Ask why my own son removed me from the room list at the hotel where he's getting married. A man wheeling a rack of champagne flutes slowed down, then sped back up when he realized this was the kind of family moment that could stain a person just by standing too close. Tyler lowered his voice. You were supposed to come yesterday. I told you my bus from Cedar Falls was delayed because of the storm. And I told you things were changing fast. Changing fast, I said. Tyler, I sent you money when you said the wedding was over budget. I bought my own dress. I paid for my transportation. I didn't ask for a fancy room, just the one you promised. Vanessa gave a small laugh that made my stomach turn. Actually, that room was needed for my aunt. I turned to her. Then maybe your aunt should have paid for the flowers I helped cover. Her smile vanished. Excuse me. Tyler stepped in front of her. Mom, enough. There it was, that word, enough. Enough, like I was a problem to be managed. Enough, like I had not spent 28 years working double shifts, missing sleep, and swallowing pride to make sure he never felt the weight of what his father left behind. I set my bag down slowly before I dropped it. When your father walked out, I said, you were 11 years old. I worked at the diner in the morning and cleaned offices at night. I wore shoes with holes in them so you could have soccer cleats. I ate toast for dinner so you could take lunch money to school. I stood in emergency rooms alone. I sat through parent meetings alone. And now you're telling me to sit in a lobby while strangers sleep upstairs. His face hardened, but I caught something behind it. Shame or fear, maybe both. Do not bring Dad into this, he said. Why not? He taught you this part, did he? Vanessa gasped softly. Tyler, we should go. But Tyler did not move. He leaned toward me and dropped his voice even lower, and somehow that hurt more than if he had shouted. You always do this, he said. Every important moment has to become about what you sacrificed. The words hit like cold water. I stared at him. That's what you think this is. He looked away first. The front doors opened behind me, letting in a rush of late afternoon air. 2 elderly guests walked in laughing, dragging matching blue suitcases, and for one strange moment I envied them. They looked like people who had arrived somewhere they were expected. I was suddenly tired, not regular tired, soul tired. I picked up my bag again. Tell me the truth, was this your decision? Tyler's silence answered before his mouth did. Vanessa stepped in smoothly. We both agreed it made the most sense. That is not what I asked. Tyler shifted his jaw. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. He exhaled through his nose. Fine, Vanessa thought it would be better if there was some space. Space from what? Neither of them answered. Then I understood. Not everything, but enough. I looked from Tyler to Vanessa and I saw it clearly. The careful distance, the polite cruelty, the rehearsed calm, this had not started today. Who have you been talking to? I asked. Tyler frowned. What? Somebody has been filling your head. Somebody has been telling you I'm a problem. Vanessa lifted her chin. Nobody had to fill his head. He sees how you are. How I am. Emotional, she said. Unpredictable, controlling. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so breathtakingly false that my heart did not know whether to break or defend itself. Controlling, I said. I have not controlled a thing in my son's life since he turned 18. He moved out. He made his choices. He picked this hotel, this wedding, this woman. Vanessa's eyes narrowed at that last word. Tyler spoke through clenched teeth. Stop. But I could not stop now. Something inside me had cracked open. No, I said. You want me quiet because quiet mothers are easier to disrespect. Quiet mothers can be pushed aside and told they imagined everything. Tyler glanced toward the lobby seating area, where a few guests were now pretending not to look. Can we please not do this in public? I stepped closer. You already did this in public. You cancelled my room. You told me to sleep in the lobby in public. He opened his mouth, then shut it. That was when an older voice came from behind the desk. Mrs. Carter. I turned. The hotel manager, a silver-haired man in a dark tie, was walking toward us with professional caution. His name tag read Martin. I had spoken to him 2 weeks ago when I called to confirm my reservation. I'm so sorry, he said gently. Would you step over here with me for 1 moment? Tyler stiffened. That won't be necessary. Martin looked at him politely, then back at me. Actually, I believe it is. I followed him a few steps away, though not far enough that I couldn't feel Tyler's stare burning into my back. Martin lowered his voice. Mrs. Carter, I want to be careful with guest privacy, but since this directly affects you, I think you should know something. Your reservation was not cancelled because the hotel was overbooked. My fingers tightened around my purse strap. Then why was it cancelled? He hesitated. The request was made very specifically. We were told to remove your room from the family block and mark you as not to be given an alternate room under the wedding account. I felt the floor shift under me. Not to be given an alternate room, I whispered. Yes, ma'am. Who told you that? Martin looked uncomfortable. The request came from the bride's planner, but she said she was acting on instructions from the groom. For a moment I could hear nothing but the pounding in my chest. Not an accident. Not a mix-up. Not a budget problem. An instruction. A choice. I turned back slowly. Tyler was no longer pretending, he knew I knew. I walked up to him until we were standing face to face. You told them not to give me another room, I said. Vanessa's expression flickered. Tyler swallowed. Mom, listen. No, you listen. My voice shook, but it did not break. You could have said there was no space. You could have lied better, but you wanted me humiliated. You wanted me sitting downstairs, watching strangers pass by, knowing I had been pushed out of my own son's wedding. That's not what I wanted. Then what did you want? He said nothing. Vanessa answered for him. We wanted peace. I looked at her for a long time. Peace does not start with cruelty. She rolled her eyes just slightly, but I saw it. And suddenly, as painful as everything felt, another feeling rose under it, something steadier, colder. Not rage. Clarity. I straightened my coat, wiped under one eye before any tear could fully fall, and picked up my bag. Tyler looked almost relieved. Maybe he thought I was leaving. Maybe he thought that was the end of it. Maybe he thought his mother would do what she had done his whole life and quietly absorb the hurt so he could keep moving. Instead, I turned to Martin. Do you have any rooms left in this hotel that are not connected to the wedding account? Martin blinked. There is one suite still available. Vanessa let out a short laugh. At this hotel, on wedding weekend, no chance she can afford that. Martin glanced at his tablet. The presidential suite is open because the guest who reserved it cancelled this morning. None of us spoke for half a second. Then I asked very calmly how much. Martin told me. It was a ridiculous amount of money, more than I had ever spent on one room in my life, enough to make practical people say no without thinking. Tyler stared at me. Mom, don't be crazy. But crazy was not what I felt. I felt 30 years of being the one who bent first. I felt every excuse I had made for him, every sharp word I had forgiven, every holiday I had pretended was fine, every lonely mile I had traveled to show up for a son who clearly did not want me there unless I came small and silent. I reached into my purse, pulled out the envelope I had planned to give Tyler after the rehearsal dinner, and looked at it one last time. Inside was the cashier's check I had brought for him, $10,000, my savings from selling the last piece of land my father left me. I slid the envelope back into my purse. Then I took out my card and handed it to Martin. "I'll take the suite," I said. Tyler's face went pale. "Mom," he said, suddenly alarmed, "what are you doing?" I looked at him with a smile he had not seen on me in years. "Checking in," I said, "and tomorrow, sweetheart, we are all going to remember this wedding." The elevator doors opened behind Martin with a soft golden chime. And that was when my phone buzzed in my hand. It was a message from an unknown number. "Do not give Tyler the money. He lied to you about more than the room. I have proof." I stared at the screen and my blood turned to ice. I stood still in the middle of the lobby, staring at that message until the words blurred. "Do not give Tyler the money. He lied to you about more than the room. I have proof." For one strange second, the whole hotel seemed to go quiet around me. The bell carts, the heels clicking across marble, the low voices, the piano from the ballroom. It all faded under the sound of my own heartbeat. "Mrs. Carter," Martin asked gently, "would you still like me to process the suite?" I looked up. Yes. My voice came out steady, and I was glad for that. Tyler did not need to hear the crack inside me. Martin nodded and took my card. Tyler stepped toward me, his face pale in a way I had not seen since he was a little boy caught in a lie. "Mom, who texted you?" I slid the phone into my purse. "That's not your concern." His eyes flashed. "It is if it's about me." I let out a small breath. "Then maybe you should think about why that would worry you." Vanessa moved closer to him, one manicured hand touching his arm. "This is exactly what I meant. Drama follows her everywhere." I turned to her slowly. "No, truth does." That shut her up for a moment. Martin handed me the registration tablet. I signed for the suite while Tyler stood there watching me like I was making some terrible mistake. Maybe I was. Spending that kind of money on pride would have sounded foolish to the woman I used to be. But this did not feel like pride. It felt like drawing a line with the only ink he seemed able to read. When the key card was ready, Martin offered to have someone take my bag upstairs. I told him I could manage it myself. I needed the walk. I needed the space. I needed 1 minute where nobody was speaking to me like I was a burden. As I turned toward the elevator, Tyler called after me. "Mom, stop walking away." I stopped, but I did not face him right away. "You walked away first," I said. Then I got into the elevator and let the doors close. Inside, I finally let my shoulders drop. My hands were trembling. I pressed the button for the top floor and leaned back against the mirrored wall. The woman staring at me in the reflection looked tired, older than 68, and dressed too carefully for the way the day had gone. My pearl earrings suddenly felt foolish. My navy dress felt too formal for a mother who had just been told to sleep in a hotel lobby by her own son. When the elevator opened, a quiet hallway stretched ahead with thick carpet and soft gold lighting. A young staff member led me to the suite and opened the door with a smile that looked almost apologetic. The room was beautiful. Too beautiful, honestly. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked over the city. There was a grand piano by the far wall, a dining table with fresh roses, a bedroom bigger than my first apartment, and a bathroom with marble counters and a soaking tub that probably cost more than my first car. After the staff member left, I stood in the center of the suite and felt the silence rush in around me. Then I sat down on the edge of the bed and cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just the quiet crying of a person who has held herself together in public and no longer has to. I cried for the room, yes, but not just that. I cried because this had not started today. A room does not get cancelled like that unless disrespect has been growing somewhere in the dark. I cried because Tyler had looked at me like I embarrassed him. I cried because a part of me had still hoped I was wrong about Vanessa, hoped she was just polished, maybe cold, maybe proud, but not cruel. And I cried because of that text. After a while I washed my face, sat by the window and took my phone out again. The message was still there. No name, no photo, just the words and a number I did not recognize. I typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared almost immediately, then disappeared. Then came the reply. "Someone who knows what Tyler and Vanessa have been hiding from you." My chest tightened. "What proof?" Another pause. "Can you meet tonight, alone?" I stared at the message. Every lesson sensible women learn in this world told me not to meet strangers at night because of a mysterious text. I knew that, I did, but this was not just mystery anymore. It had shape. It had timing. It had Tyler's face in it. I typed again. "Tell me who you are first." The answer came this time without delay. "My name is Claire, I'm Vanessa's cousin." I frowned. Vanessa had mentioned cousins from California. That part at least matched, but that did not mean this Claire was real or safe or honest. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because what they did to you was cruel, and because your son doesn't know what Vanessa has really said about you behind your back. And there's more, a lot more." I put the phone down on the table and stood up. The room suddenly felt smaller. I walked to the window and looked out over the city while the sun dipped lower, throwing orange light across the glass towers and streets below. Somewhere down there people were starting ordinary evenings. Dinner plans, grocery runs, phone calls, television. And up here I was trying to decide whether my son had merely humiliated me or built his whole wedding on lies. My phone buzzed again. Lobby Cafe, 8 p.m. red coat. I should have ignored it. Instead I checked the time. 7:12. I needed to think. So I did what I always did when life got too loud. I started putting things in order. I unpacked my dress for the wedding and hung it in the closet. Pale blue, soft silk, modest but elegant. Tyler once told me blue made me look peaceful. He had been 16 when he said it, standing crooked in his too-big tie before junior prom. He had kissed my cheek and said, "You always look nice in blue, Mom." That memory hit so suddenly it bent me in half. I sat on the bench at the foot of the bed and let myself remember him before all this, before pride and distance and Vanessa and whatever poison had gotten into this family. Tyler at 7, asleep on my lap during a church play. Tyler at 12, trying to act brave after his father left. Tyler at 19, hugging me outside the community college after I helped pay his first tuition installment. Tyler at 26, crying in my kitchen after a breakup and saying, "You're the only person who's always there." So what happened? That was the question that sat under everything. At 7:40 there was a knock at the door. I froze. Then another knock. I crossed the room quietly and looked through the peephole. "Tyler." I almost did not open it. Almost. But old habits are hard to kill, especially when they wear your child's face. I opened the door halfway. "What?" He stood there without Vanessa now, jacket off, tie loosened, hair slightly out of place. For the first time all day, he looked less like a groom and more like my son. "Can I come in?" "No." He glanced down the hall and lowered his voice. "Please." I crossed my arms. "You told me to sleep in a lobby. I think standing in a hallway will be survivable." A flicker of hurt crossed his face. Good, I thought, let him feel 1 ounce of it. "I came to apologize," he said. I studied him. "Did you?" He let out a breath. "What happened downstairs was wrong." "That is a sentence, not an apology." "Fine, I'm sorry." "For what part?" He looked irritated already, which told me just how shallow the apology was. "For the room." "For cancelling it." "Yes." "For telling the hotel not to give me another." His silence was answer enough. I nodded. "Anything else?" He shifted his weight. "Mom, why are you doing this like it's a cross-examination?" I stared at him, because someone should finally ask the right questions. He rubbed the back of his neck. Vanessa is under a lot of stress. I almost laughed in his face. And that made you humiliate your mother. She didn't force me. Then stop hiding behind her. That landed. His jaw tightened. You don't understand how hard this week has been. No, I said softly. Apparently I don't understand my own son at all. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then he said the thing I had not expected. She thinks you hate her. I blinked. What? Vanessa, she thinks you've judged her from the beginning. She said you never gave her a chance. I actually felt my mouth fall open. I hosted that woman for Christmas, I said. I sent her flowers when she got promoted. I mailed her mother a sympathy card when her brother died. I invited them both to my church fundraiser. What exactly would a chance have looked like? She says you're fake nice. I gave him a long, flat look. That sounds like Vanessa. He sighed. Mom, can't you just let this go for one weekend? There it was again. That impossible request families make when one person has been hurt, and everyone else wants the hurt to stay convenient. No, I said. His eyes hardened. Then what do you want? The truth almost came out right then. I wanted my son back. I wanted the years back. I wanted to unhear what he said downstairs. I wanted to know why I had raised a man who could wound me and still ask me to make it easy for him. But I said something simpler. I want the truth. About what? Everything. He laughed once, tired and bitter. There is no grand conspiracy here. We had wedding pressure. Vanessa overreacted. I handled it badly. End of story. No, I thought, not even close. Because I had that text in my purse like a live wire. Because Martin had told me this humiliation was planned. Because Tyler had come upstairs not to make things right, but to smooth things over. I took a step back toward the door. If that's really the end of the story, I said, then you should have no problem sleeping tonight. He stared at me. What's that supposed to mean? It means good night. I started to close the door, but he stopped it with his hand. Mom, that single word nearly undid me. He used to say it when he was scared. Now he said it when he wanted control. What? I asked. His face changed then. The frustration dropped away, and for 1 second I saw fear, real fear. If anyone talks to you tonight, he said carefully, don't listen. Every muscle in my body went still. Anyone, I repeated. He realized his mistake the same moment I did. He pulled his hand back. I just mean people gossip at weddings. I held his gaze. Who am I supposed to hear from Tyler? He swallowed. Nobody. I stepped forward and shut the door. Hard. Then I stood there with my hand still on the knob, breathing fast. He knew. Maybe not exactly what, maybe not exactly who, but he knew something was loose. At 7:55, I took the elevator down to the lobby cafe. I wore a cream sweater over my dress slacks and carried only my room key, phone and purse. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. I did not want to look like a woman walking into a secret meeting. I wanted to look like an older guest getting tea before bed. The cafe sat just off the main lobby behind a wall of glass and dark wood. It was quieter than the rest of the hotel, with little round tables, low lamps, and a pianist in the corner playing soft standards that tried very hard not to interrupt people's private disasters. I spotted the red coat immediately. A woman in her early 30s sat alone at the back, turning a paper napkin over and over in her hands. Blonde hair pulled back, no makeup I could see, nervous eyes. When I approached, she stood. Mrs. Carter. Yes, I'm Claire. I sat without shaking her hand. You have 5 minutes to convince me I'm not making a terrible decision being here. She nodded like she expected that. Fair. A server came by and I ordered tea just to have something to hold. Claire asked for nothing. She looked toward the lobby, then back at me. I'm sorry about today, she said. Vanessa told people you were unstable and dramatic, but even I didn't think they'd do something that cruel. My face stayed still, though inside I flinched. What exactly has Vanessa been saying about me? Claire hesitated. That you manipulate Tyler with guilt, that you pretend to be sweet in public and vicious in private, that you threaten not to pay for the wedding unless she put you front and center. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was so wildly opposite from reality. It told me two things at once. Vanessa had been preparing this, and Tyler had let her. I never threatened them with anything, I said. I know that now, Claire said quickly. That's why I texted you. Why now? She looked ashamed, because I should have said something sooner. The tea arrived. I waited until the server left. Start from the beginning, I said. Claire took a breath. About 2 months ago, Vanessa asked me to help her organize wedding invoices, seating, favors, vendors, all that. She was obsessed with keeping Tyler stressed and dependent. She said if he had time to think, he'd start listening to you again. The words settled into me like poison. What do you mean, dependent? She wanted him cut off from anyone who might question her. You, his friend Marcus, even his Aunt Linda. I frowned. Linda couldn't come. She said she had surgery. Claire looked confused. No, Vanessa told everyone Aunt Linda wasn't invited because she'd always sided with you. I felt cold all over. My sister-in-law Linda had called 3 weeks ago, sounding oddly distant, saying she was sorry to miss the wedding because of a procedure. I had sent flowers. She had never mentioned not being invited. Keep going, I said quietly. Claire glanced around once more and reached into her bag. I took screenshots, she said. She slid her phone across the table. On the screen was a group chat. Vanessa, Claire, a woman named Nina, probably the planner. I read in silence. Make sure Diane's room gets dropped. If she shows up late, let her sit downstairs and learn boundaries. Tyler will act guilty for 5 minutes, then get over it. Do not let hotel staff upgrade her under our account. Then another message from Vanessa, a day later. Once the check clears, she can cry all she wants. My hand tightened around the phone so hard my knuckles hurt. The check. My $10,000. She knew. She knew I was bringing money. I looked up slowly. How did she know about that? Claire's face changed. That was when I knew the next answer would be worse. She saw the message Tyler sent me, Claire said softly. He told her you were coming with one last financial gift. He said after that he wanted to be done owing you. I could not speak. The cafe music kept playing. Cups clinked. Someone laughed in the lobby. The world remained insultingly normal while something inside me tore open. Done owing you. Not grateful. Not embarrassed. Not conflicted. Done owing you. Claire leaned forward. There's more. I stared at her. Vanessa, been telling people Tyler only proposed because of the promotion and the family connections her father promised. She said marriage to her would fix his career, and she said your money would help them start clean in Boston. My throat felt dry. Boston. She nodded. They're moving right after the wedding, didn't he tell you? No. He had not told me that either. My only child was planning to leave the state, maybe for good, and I was learning it from a stranger in a red coat. I sat back in my chair and looked at nothing for a moment. The betrayal was growing too large to hold in one place. I asked the next question almost without sound. Does Tyler know what she says about him? Claire gave a sad little shake of her head. I don't think he knows everything. She's careful. She plays different roles for different people. And why are you showing me this? She swallowed. Because I've watched Vanessa destroy people before, friends, ex-boyfriends, even her own mother. If I leave tomorrow and keep quiet, then I'm part of it. I reached for my teacup and realized my hand was shaking again. Just then my phone lit up on the table. Tyler calling. Claire saw the name and went pale. Don't answer. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. A second later, a message came in. Where are you? Then another. Mom, answer me right now. I looked up at Claire. She looked back at me with frightened eyes. Then, before either of us could say another word, a sharp voice cut through the cafe. There you are. I turned. Vanessa was standing at the entrance, breathing hard, her perfect hair slightly out of place, her eyes locked not on me but on Claire. And the look on her face was not surprise. It was panic. Vanessa stood at the entrance of the cafe like a woman who had been running, though she was trying very hard not to show it. The pianist faltered for half a second, then kept playing. Claire went so pale I thought she might faint. I looked from one woman to the other and felt something settle inside me. That quiet, cold feeling again, the kind that comes when confusion starts becoming truth. Vanessa walked toward our table with a smile that did not belong on her face. "There you are, Diane," she said brightly, too brightly. "Tyler's been looking everywhere for you." I stayed seated. "Interesting, you seem to have found me first." Her smile twitched. "The hotel is that big." Claire lowered her eyes. Vanessa turned to her cousin. "And you," her voice dropped, "what exactly are you doing?" Claire swallowed. "Having coffee." "No," Vanessa said, "you're not." People at the next table were pretending not to listen. A man in a blazer lifted his cup very slowly. A woman beside him stared into her pastry like it had become the most important thing in the room. I set my teacup down. "Since we're all here," I said, "why don't we stop pretending?" Vanessa looked at me, and for the first time since I had met her, I saw the real her plain and clear. Not polished, not sweet, not impressive, just furious that she had lost control of the room. "I don't know what you think is going on," she said. "Oh, I think you know exactly what's going on." She laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Claire, did you seriously drag my future mother-in-law down here and fill her head with your usual nonsense?" Claire finally looked up. "It's not nonsense." Vanessa's eyes flashed. "You need to be very careful." "No," Claire said, quieter this time but steadier. "You do." That answer surprised all three of us. Vanessa straightened. "Excuse me." I reached across the table and took Claire's phone before Vanessa could. "Sit down," I told Vanessa. She stared at me as if I had gone mad. "I'm not sitting down." "Then stand there and explain these messages." I unlocked the screen and held it up. Vanessa's face changed so quickly it was almost frightening. A flush climbed her neck. Her mouth opened then closed. "I can explain that," she said. "Please do." She looked around the cafe and lowered her voice. "Not here." "But humiliating me in the lobby was fine here." "Diane, you're making a scene." I almost smiled. "No dear, I'm uncovering one." She took a step closer and hissed, "Give me that phone." "No." Her hand shot out but I pulled it back in time. The movement was enough to make two servers glance over. Claire stood halfway from her seat, shaken but alert. Vanessa froze, realizing she had gone too far in public. Then, as if the evening had not already turned enough, Tyler appeared at the cafe entrance. His eyes found us instantly. His expression went from anger to confusion to dread in less than a second. "Vanessa," he said, "what's going on?" Nobody answered right away. He walked over faster, looking between our faces. "Mom, Claire, why is everybody down here?" I held his gaze. Maybe because the truth got tired of waiting upstairs. His shoulders went rigid. "What does that mean?" Vanessa recovered first. She always did. I could see that now. She stepped toward him and took his arm like a woman steadying a troubled man. "It's nothing," she said gently. "Claire's upset about some family issue and dragged your mother into it." Claire gave a small disbelieving laugh. "Wow." Tyler looked at her. "Claire." "She's lying to you," Claire said. Vanessa squeezed his arm. "She's been drinking." "I haven't had a drop." "Enough," Tyler snapped, his voice sharper than I expected. He turned to me. "Mom, what are you doing with her?" I stood up slowly. "What am I doing?" I repeated. "Finding out why my room was cancelled, finding out why your Aunt Linda was not invited, finding out why your bride thinks my $10,000 was worth humiliating me for." Tyler's face emptied. He looked at Vanessa, then back at me, then at Claire. For 1 second no one breathed. "What $10,000? He asked quietly. That stopped me. I stared at him. Vanessa stepped back from him so slightly I almost missed it. My mind moved fast, too fast, one piece sliding against another. The group chat. Once the check clears, she can cry all she wants. Claire saying Vanessa saw Tyler's message about my financial gift. And now Tyler saying what $10,000. I turned to Claire, show him. Claire handed him the phone with shaking fingers. He looked down at the screenshots. I watched his eyes move. First confusion, then disbelief, then something like horror. What is this? He asked. Vanessa's voice came out calm again but thinner now. Tyler, give me the phone. He did not move. Tyler. Still nothing. He kept reading. Then he lifted his head and looked at her in a way I had never seen before. You wrote this. Vanessa folded her arms. You know how people joke in private. Joke, Claire said. You told the planner to let his mother sleep in a lobby. Vanessa shot her a murderous look. Stay out of this. Tyler's voice went low. Answer me. She changed tactics immediately, softening, reaching for him again. Baby, listen, I was stressed. Your mother has pushed and pushed and pushed every boundary and I was venting. That's all. I stepped forward. Do not call calculated humiliation venting. Tyler turned to me sharply. Mom, you said something about $10,000. I looked at him for a long moment. Part of me wanted to wound him, truly wound him, to make him feel how it had felt hearing him call my sacrifice a burden, to tell him that yes, I brought money and no, he would never see a penny of it now. But another part of me, the older and sadder part, saw something else in his face. He did not know. Not all of it anyway. I was going to give you a check tomorrow, I said, as a wedding gift, $10,000. His face went white. You what? I sold the last piece of my father's land. He stared at me as if I had slapped him. You sold Grandpa's land? Yes. Why would you do that? I laughed then, though it came out broken. For the same reason mothers do foolish things every day, because I thought it would help my son start his life. He looked suddenly unsteady. I never asked you to do that. No, you just kept hinting that the wedding was expensive, that things were tight, that Boston would be a hard move. At the word Boston, his head snapped up. Boston. This time I looked straight at Vanessa. Maybe you should explain that too. Tyler slowly turned toward her. What is she talking about? Vanessa opened her mouth but no answer came out immediately. That was all the answer he needed. You told her, he asked. You told people we were moving. She shook her head quickly. Only family. It was supposed to be a surprise until after the wedding. To my mother. You two barely talk anymore. That sentence landed like a gunshot. Tyler stepped back from her. Barely talk anymore. Not because life had gotten busy. Not because distance happens. Because it had been managed, encouraged, fed. He looked at me and for one heartbreaking second he seemed young again. Lost, ashamed, pulled in too many directions and finally seeing the damage. Then he looked back at Vanessa. Did you uninvite Aunt Linda? Vanessa lifted her chin. She always stirs things up. That's not what I asked. She would have caused problems. So you lied. She said ugly things about me. Claire spoke up, because she caught you flirting with Jason at Thanksgiving. Vanessa spun around. Shut up, Claire. Tyler frowned. Jason. Claire's mouth tightened. Your college friend Jason, the one Vanessa kept texting after you left early. Vanessa laughed in disbelief. Are you serious? We are doing this now, digging up old nonsense because you're jealous and lonely. Claire flinched but she did not back down. You don't get to do that, not tonight. Do what? Make everybody else seem crazy so you can stay innocent. The silence around us deepened. Even the people pretending not to watch had stopped pretending very well. Tyler took another slow breath. Did you text Jason? Vanessa threw up her hands. He texted me first, it meant nothing. Claire looked at Tyler with tired pity. It never means nothing with her. I could see Tyler trying to hold onto something that was slipping through his fingers. Pride, maybe. image, the wedding itself, the version of his life he had built around this woman. "Mom," he said suddenly, not taking his eyes off Vanessa, "why didn't you tell me about the money before?" I stared at him. Would it have mattered? His face crumpled in a way that told me yes, but it came too late. Vanessa grabbed his sleeve. "Tyler, please, not in front of them." He pulled his arm away. She froze. That, more than anything else, seemed to frighten her. "Did you tell the planner to remove my mother's room?" he asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I told Nina there had been confusion." "That's not what I asked. I was trying to protect our day. From my mother. From conflict." He shook his head slowly. No, you were trying to punish her." She stepped toward him. "Because she never accepted me." I cut in before he could answer. "I accepted you more than you deserved." Vanessa looked at me with naked hatred then. It was almost impressive how quickly the mask disappeared. "You want to know the truth," she said. Tyler stared at her. She kept going. "Fine, your mother has looked down on me from day one. That fake church smile, those little comments about family values and trust, the way she'd act so humble while making sure everybody remembered what she sacrificed for you." My voice stayed even. Nothing I said today was a lie. "That's the problem," Vanessa snapped. "You think because you suffered, the rest of us owe you respect forever." I took a step toward her. "No, I think basic decency was owed before suffering ever entered the room." Tyler was breathing hard now. "You had no right." She wheeled toward him. "And what about you? Don't stand there like some innocent victim. You agreed to drop her room." He looked like he had been punched. "Yes," he said quietly, "I did." The words hit me harder than I expected, even after everything. He looked at me. "Mom, I'm sorry." It was different this time. Not polished, not irritated, not rushed. Real. Too late, but real. I wanted to accept it and reject it at the same time. Clea stood very still. Vanessa laughed bitterly. "You're apologizing to her now, after everything she's done." Tyler looked at her as if he no longer knew who she was. "What has she done?" Vanessa's lips parted, but no answer came. "That was the beginning of the end. You could feel it. She knew it too." She drew herself up, eyes bright with anger and panic. "Fine, you want to make me the villain? Go ahead. But don't forget who paid for the photographer, who fixed your vendor disaster, who pushed your boss to take you seriously, who got your name in front of people who matter." Tyler blinked. "My boss." Clea closed her eyes briefly, like she had hoped that part would stay hidden a little longer. "I noticed." "What about his boss?" I asked. Vanessa turned too late. Clea had already reacted. Tyler caught it. "Clea." She hesitated. "I shouldn't be the one to tell you." "Tell me what?" Vanessa stepped toward her. "You say one more word and I swear to God." Tyler shouted, "Enough." The whole cafe went silent. Even the piano stopped. Clea took a shaky breath. "Your promotion," she said to Tyler, "wasn't just because of your work. Vanessa's father leaned on your company through one of his board contacts. She's been bragging for months that once you were locked in, you'd never leave her." The color drained from Tyler's face. "What?" Vanessa laughed again, but this time it sounded wild. "Oh, please, everybody uses connections. You told me I earned that promotion. You did earn it." "Did I?" She said nothing. He looked ruined. Not angry first, ruined. Because for a proud man, sometimes betrayal hits hardest where it touches his own reflection. He took a step backward and bumped into the table behind him. A cup rattled. Nobody moved to help. I should have felt satisfaction. Maybe I did a little, but mostly I felt grief. Heavy old grief mixed now with something sharper. Vanessa reached for him one last time. "Tyler, listen to me, they're twisting everything." He flinched away. That flinch broke something in her. She turned on Clea with blazing eyes. "You stupid little traitor." Then she did something none of us expected. She grabbed Clea's bag from the chair, yanked it open and pulled out an envelope. My breath caught. Even before I saw what was inside, I knew it mattered. Clea lunged. Give that back. Vanessa held it high, furious, shaking. You've been stealing from me now. It's not yours. Tyler moved faster than I had seen him move in years. He snatched the envelope from Vanessa's hand. Inside were printed emails. He flipped through them, and his expression changed again. This time not confusion. Not heartbreak. Something colder. What are these? He asked. Clea looked at me once, then back at him. They're from Vanessa to her ex-husband. Tyler's head lifted slowly. Ex-husband. The room tilted. I heard the word, understood the word, and still needed a second for it to land. Vanessa went completely still. Tyler looked from Clea to Vanessa and back again. Ex-husband, he repeated. Clea's voice was barely above a whisper now. She was married before, briefly, in Nevada, 3 years ago. It was annulled after 6 months. But not before she drained his accounts and tried to force a property settlement. Tyler stared at Vanessa as if she had become a stranger in a stranger's skin. You told me you never been married. Vanessa's face hardened. She knew the softness was useless now. It was nothing, she said flatly. A mistake, it didn't count. Tyler's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. You lied to me. So did you, she shot back. You let me think your mother would stay in her place. My body went cold at the cruelty of that sentence. Tyler looked at her, truly looked at her, and whatever had been holding his future together finally gave way. Without another word, he took off his engagement ring and placed it on the cafe table between the untouched teacups and the crumpled napkins. Vanessa stared at it. Clea covered her mouth. I could not breathe. Tyler's next words came out low and clear. The wedding is off. And that should have been the biggest shock of the night. It was. Because the second he said it, Vanessa smiled. Not sadly. Not angrily. Knowingly. Then she looked straight at me and said, That's fine. But before either of you walk away feeling righteous, maybe your son should tell you what he did with the money from your house refinance last year. I turned to Tyler. His face collapsed. And in that instant, I knew the worst pain of the night had not even arrived yet. The cafe seemed to tilt around me. I looked at Tyler, and he looked exactly like a man standing at the edge of a cliff he had spent months pretending was not there. What is she talking about? I asked. He did not answer. Vanessa folded her arms, breathing hard, her eyes bright with the ugly satisfaction of someone who had just thrown a match into a dry field. Tell her, she said. Be quiet, Tyler snapped. No, I said, my voice sharper than his. She's been quiet at the right times and loud at the wrong ones. Now you speak. He closed his eyes for a second. That scared me more than any denial could have. Clea whispered, Tyler. He opened his eyes and looked at me. Mom, not here. I stared at him. You should have thought of that before whatever this is. People were still watching, though now with that strained stillness you see when a private family wound bursts open in public. Nobody wanted to leave. Nobody wanted to be rude. Everybody wanted the truth. Tyler ran a hand over his face. For the first time in years, he looked tired enough to be honest. Last year, he said quietly, when you refinanced the house. My throat tightened. The house. The little white house in Cedar Falls with the crooked mailbox, the narrow porch, and the kitchen window over the sink where I had stood for 26 years washing dishes and praying over bills. The house I had refinanced because Tyler told me it would help us both in the long run. I heard my own voice come out smaller than I wanted. You said it was for a down payment. He looked away. That was part of it. Part of it. Not all of it. I felt something cold move through my chest. How much? I asked. He swallowed. 40,000. I gripped the back of the chair beside me so hard my fingers ached. $40,000. I knew the number already. I had signed the papers. I had sat in that fluorescent office with a lone officer half my age, smiling kindly while he explained interest rates and new payment schedules like he was helping me, and not handing me a fresh burden because I trusted my son. I had told myself it was worth it. Tyler had said he had found a chance to buy a condo before prices rose further. He said it would save him money, build equity, give him security. He said one day he would help me too. He had cried when he asked me. Not loudly, Tyler was never a loud crier, just enough to let me see fear in him. And I, fool that I was, had put my name where the papers told me to. What part? I asked again. He opened his mouth, but Vanessa beat him to it. The condo never happened, she said. He whipped around. I said be quiet. She gave a cold shrug. Why, so you can make yourself sound noble? My eyes stayed on my son. Is she lying? His silence broke me more than any word could have. No, he said at last, the condo didn't happen. I felt my knees weaken, and I sat down before the floor could choose for me. Clea pulled out a chair for Tyler, but he stayed standing. Good, let him feel unsteady too. Then where did the money go? I asked. He looked miserable. Some of it went to debt. What debt? He hesitated. Tyler. Credit cards, a personal loan, some back rent from when I lost that first sales job. I stared at him, trying to sort the facts from the ache. You told me that was behind you. It was supposed to be. But it was. No. Vanessa laughed softly, and I turned to her with enough force that she stepped back. You do not get to enjoy this. Her smile faded. I'm not enjoying it, I'm making sure you know who raised the liar here. Tyler flinched. That sentence might have crushed me an hour ago, now it just made me tired. Whatever he did, I said, he learned deception from many places. She folded her arms tighter but said nothing. I looked back at Tyler. How much went to debt? About 18. About 18,000. And the rest? He closed his eyes again. That same awful pause. My voice came out almost as a whisper. Tyler, where did the rest go? When he answered, every word felt like a stone dropped into water. Vanessa said she had a business emergency. The cafe went quiet in a new way. Not public quiet. Personal quiet. That hush that comes when the heart understands, before the mind finishes catching up. I looked at Vanessa. She did not look ashamed. She looked annoyed that the timing had gone wrong. What business emergency? I asked. She lifted one shoulder. It was temporary. Tyler let out one broken laugh. You told me your event company was about to collapse because a client backed out. It was under pressure. You said if I helped, you'd pay it back in 6 weeks. Her face hardened. I said I'd try. I turned back to Tyler, and something deep inside me cracked again. You took money from my house, I said slowly, and gave it to your girlfriend. He stared at the floor. I thought I was helping the woman I loved. No, I said, you were stealing from the woman who loved you. That hit him. He sat down at last heavily, like his legs had given up. Clea wiped under her eye with the side of her finger. Even Martin, standing discreetly near the cafe entrance now, looked like he wanted to disappear. I asked the next question because I had to. Did she ever pay you back? Tyler's jaw worked. No. How much did she return? Nothing. I closed my eyes. $40,000. My new mortgage payments. My smaller grocery budget. The vacations I never took. The furnace I patched instead of replaced. The dental work I delayed. The quiet fear I carried each month when bills came due. Also, he could hand money to a woman who planned to cut me out and call it peace. My voice shook now, and I no longer cared who heard it. How could you do that to me? He looked up, and the raw regret in his face made him seem younger and older at the same time. I told myself I'd fix it before you knew, he said. I thought I'd get promoted, catch up, repay you, and then it would just disappear. Disappear, I repeated. You thought betrayal disappears if you cover it long enough. Tears filled his eyes. Mom, I know. No, I said. You know now because your wedding fell apart in a cafe. Vanessa gave a mocking little sound. That's rich, you act like he robbed a bank, he made a choice, adults do that. Tyler turned on her. Stop talking. You begged me to help you, she snapped back. Do you remember that? You came to me panicking about collectors, credit damage, your future. You said your mother would never survive the truth, so you'd rather die than tell her. I felt my breath catch. He had said that. I looked at him. He did not deny it. The hurt moved into a deeper place then, somewhere under tears, under anger, under pride. The place where a mother begins to grieve not just what happened, but who her child became while she was still calling him her boy. Was any of it true? I asked him. The condo, the timing, any of it? He shook his head once. No. Did you plan to tell me after the wedding? Another pause. Then barely audible's no. That answer hurt worst of all. Not the lie. Not the money. Not even the humiliation downstairs. The plan to never tell me. Because that meant he had already decided what I was worth, what truth I could be trusted with, what respect I did not deserve. Claire spoke up then very softly. Mrs. Carter, there's one more thing. Every part of me wanted there not to be. But of course there was. I looked at her. Go on. She glanced at Tyler first, like she hated this part. When Vanessa found out about the refinance money, she told Nina and me that if your check came through too, it would cover the honeymoon and give them breathing room to leave Boston debt-free. Tyler's head lifted sharply. Honeymoon. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Oh, please. He stood again, suddenly furious. You told me we were keeping costs low because things were tight. We are keeping costs low compared to what they could be. That's not an answer. She sighed like he was slow. You wanted a future. Futures cost money. No, he said, almost choking on the words. You wanted my mother's money. For the first time all night, Vanessa looked truly cornered. She straightened her spine and chose contempt. And what if I did, she said. She was going to hand it over anyway. Women like her live to be needed. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. Claire gasped softly. Tyler looked stunned. Vanessa's eyes widened, maybe because she realized too late what she had just said out loud, maybe because she saw on my face that I had finally reached the far edge of patience. Women like her. All the years. All the scraped-together love. All the Christmas cards and casseroles and overtime shifts and second chances. Reduced to that. I stepped closer until she had no choice but to meet my eyes. Listen carefully, I said, my voice low and steady. You confused kindness with weakness. You confused sacrifice with stupidity. And worst of all, you confused my silence with blindness. She opened her mouth, but I was not finished. You were wrong on all three. The cafe had gone so still, I could hear the hum of the refrigeration unit behind the pastry case. Vanessa's face burned red. Don't talk to me like I'm trash. I gave her a long look, then stop acting like it. That did it. She grabbed her purse off the back of the chair, breath shaking, dignity hanging on by a thread. Fine, she said. Enjoy your little moral victory. But don't pretend any of this fixes your son. He still lied. He still used you. He still chose me until 5 minutes ago. I looked at Tyler. He looked destroyed because it was true. Not fully true, not completely, but true enough to wound. And maybe he needed that wound. Maybe regret only enters once excuses have no place left to sit. Vanessa took one step backward, then another. I'm done here. Tyler said her name, but not in love, not even in anger, in disbelief, like he still could not quite grasp what he had built his life around. She turned and walked out of the cafe. Nobody stopped her. Nobody followed. The sound of her heels faded across the marble lobby and was swallowed by the hotel's soft music and expensive air, as if the building itself was eager to forget her. But we couldn't. Not yet. I sank back into my chair, suddenly exhausted in a way that felt older than the night itself. Tyler stood there in silence, his wedding tomorrow, his fiancée gone, his secrets dragged into the open, and his mother sitting 3 feet away looking at him like a stranger. He sat down slowly. Mom, he said. That was all. Just Mom. No defense after it, no explanation, no clever words. I looked at him and for a moment I saw every version of him at once. The little boy with skinned knees, the teenager with too much pride, the young man pretending he did not need anyone, the grown son who had let weakness become deception and love become debt. Why, I asked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just the plain question at the center of the wreck. He stared at his hands. At first I thought I could handle everything. I was ashamed of the debt, ashamed I'd messed up again. Then Vanessa made everything sound simple. She always did. She'd say, "You deserve a reset. Your mother wants to help. She'll never know if you fix it fast." He swallowed hard. And I wanted to believe that. I nodded once, though it hurt. Because believing that made me useful to you. Tears spilled down his face now. He did not wipe them away. No, he said, because believing that meant I wasn't a bad son. The honesty of that nearly undid me. Not because it excused him. It did not. But because it was the first true thing he had said all night. Claire sat quietly, looking like she wished she could disappear into the wallpaper. I drew in a breath and asked the harder question. When you cancelled my room, were you trying to stop me from giving you the check? He looked up sharply, surprised I had seen that far. Yes, he whispered. I went still. He kept talking, words stumbling now. After the fight this afternoon, I knew I didn't deserve it. I knew if you gave it to me anyway, I'd hate myself. And I also knew if you stayed close, if you spent enough time around Vanessa tonight and tomorrow, everything would crack open. So I thought, if I pushed you away first. His voice broke. You thought humiliation would protect you, I said. He nodded once. A terrible kind of understanding passed through me then. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But understanding. He had not only been cruel. He had been panicked. And panic in weak people can be vicious. I sat back and looked toward the dark window beyond the lobby. Somewhere outside the city kept moving. Taxis, streetlights, couples laughing on sidewalks, lives continuing as if mine had not just been split into before and after. Then I thought of something, and my stomach tightened again. Who else knows? I asked. Tyler frowned. About what? The refinance lie, the debt, the money. He hesitated. Marcus knew I was in trouble, not the details. Vanessa knew, her father knew a little. Maybe Nina guessed some of it. I closed my eyes for a second. Too many people. Too many strangers holding pieces of my humiliation, while I moved through the past year smiling at church and stretching my grocery budget and telling myself sacrifice was love. Then another thought came. Aunt Linda, I said, did she know? His face changed. No, but she suspected something was wrong with Vanessa. She kept telling me to slow down, to think. I stopped answering her calls. Of course he did. People rarely cut off the ones trying to save them by accident. Claire reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. There's something else you need. Tyler and I both looked at her. It's from Nina, she said. She sent it to me an hour ago after she found out you cancelled the wedding account room for your mom. She said she didn't want involvement anymore. Claire handed me the paper. It was a printed email. Short. Practical. Ugly. Mrs. Carter was deliberately removed from the rooming list at Vanessa Brooks's insistence. Tyler Carter verbally approved the decision by phone on Tuesday at 4:12 p.m. He sounded reluctant, but agreed. I am documenting this because I no longer want liability connected to guest mistreatment or financial deception surrounding wedding reimbursements. I read it twice. Then I handed it to Tyler. He stared at it like he hoped the words would rearrange themselves into something kinder. They did not. There it was, clean and plain. Who caused the pain? Who covered the truth? Who agreed? Who planned? No confusion now. No comforting fog. Tyler lowered the paper slowly. I really did this. It was such a simple sentence. And because it was so simple, it carried weight. I really did this. Yes. He had. I looked at him for a long time, and when I spoke, my voice surprised even me. You need to stand in it. He blinked through tears. What? This. I gestured lightly around us, but I meant more than the cafe, more than the hotel. I meant the moral wreckage. You need to stand in what you did. No excuses, no Vanessa, no stress, no pressure, no childhood wounds, no blaming money, no blaming pride. You did this. He nodded slowly, crying harder now but making no sound. I know. Do you? I asked. Because tomorrow morning people will wake up expecting a wedding. Staff will set tables, guests will get dressed, your boss may arrive, church friends may arrive, family will ask questions, and you, Tyler, will have to decide whether you want to protect your image one last time or tell the truth for once in your life. His face tightened with fear. That fear told me he understood exactly what tomorrow could cost him. Good. Regret should cost something. He whispered, "What do you want me to do?" That question hung between us. And I knew then that revenge, real revenge, was no longer about the sweet or the check or embarrassing him back. It was about truth where lies had been living too comfortably. I leaned forward and answered slowly. Tomorrow, before anyone sits down for that wedding breakfast, you are going to tell them yourself that there will be no ceremony. You are going to tell them why. You are going to tell them your mother was mistreated, your fiancé lied, and you stole money from me under false pretenses. Tyler stared at me like I had asked him to walk naked into fire. Mom, no, you wanted me hidden. You wanted my pain kept private and convenient. I'm done with that. Clea looked stunned. Martin, still hovering at the edge of the cafe, quietly turned away, probably to give us some dignity. I appreciated that. Tyler's voice shook. That will ruin me. I held his gaze. Yes, I said, a little. He dropped his head. And because I am a mother, even after everything, part of me broke saying it. But I said it anyway. Because some ruins are the first honest shape a person takes. Tyler sat in silence for a long time. Then he asked the question that told me he was finally understanding the scale of what he had done. If I do that, he said, will you ever forgive me? I opened my mouth and stopped. Because I did not know. Not yet. Not while the house payment still waited back in Cedar Falls. Not while my savings sat in an envelope that now felt like a joke. Not while my own son had to ask whether truth was worth more than reputation. So I gave him the only honest answer I had. I don't know. That crushed him more than shouting would have. Good, a cold part of me thought. Let it. He nodded slowly, tears slipping down his face. Then my phone buzzed. I looked down. It was a text from Linda. The real Linda. My sister-in-law. Diane, I just heard from someone at the hotel. Please tell me it isn't true. Vanessa told people you weren't invited because of your drinking again. I knew she was lying. Call me now. I stared at the screen. Drinking again. Again. I do not drink. Never had more than a holiday glass of wine in my life. A hot, dizzy wave of humiliation swept through me. Vanessa had not only pushed me aside. She had built a whole false story around me. A smear. A cover. A reason people could nod at and accept without asking questions. My hand tightened around the phone. Tyler saw my face. What is it? I lifted my eyes to his. The revenge I had planned in my mind a few hours ago had been sharp but private. Now it changed. Now it had a stage. I stood up. Tomorrow, I said, my voice steady as stone, is not going to be a cancelled wedding. Tyler looked confused. Clea frowned. I slipped Linda's text into my purse and met my son's eyes. It is going to be a reckoning. And from the way his face drained of colour, he knew that whatever happened next would be far bigger than the end of his marriage. I did not sleep much that night. I went back to the presidential suite after leaving the cafe, locked the door behind me, and sat in the dark for a long time with only the city lights coming through the windows. The suite had looked grand when I first entered it. By midnight it felt like a stage waiting for a final act. My phone stayed busy. Linda called twice. I finally answered the second time. Diane, she said the moment I picked up, please tell me you are all right. I closed my eyes. No, but I will be. She let out a breath. I knew something was wrong. Vanessa called me 3 weeks ago and said Tyler thought it would be better if I stayed away from the wedding because I might upset you. Upset me how? Linda's voice softened. She said your health had become fragile. Then later, when I pushed back, she hinted you had started drinking again. I laughed once, bitter and tired. Again, when I never started. I know that woman is poison. For a second, hearing somebody say it so plainly made me feel less crazy. Linda kept going. Tyler ignored every call after that. I thought maybe he was ashamed. I did not know how bad it was. It's bad, I said. Then I told her everything. Not every word, not every screenshot, but enough. The room, the texts, the refinance lie, the debt, Vanessa's manipulation, Tyler's part in it, the wedding being off. Linda went silent for a long moment after I finished. Then she said, "What are you going to do tomorrow?" I looked out over the city and answered with more calm than I felt. "I'm going to make sure the truth arrives before the guests do." There was a pause. Then Linda said, "Good." That one word gave me strength. We spoke for another 20 minutes. She offered to drive through the night and be there by morning, but I told her not to. This had become something Tyler needed to face himself. I could not keep building a wall around him and calling it love. After the call, I opened the envelope with the cashier's check and stared at it for a while. $10,000. I had imagined handing it to him after the rehearsal dinner, maybe with a little joke about not spending it all on throw pillows and airport coffee. I had imagined him hugging me, maybe even thanking me properly for once. Instead, I walked to the desk in the suite, found the hotel stationery and wrote 3 things. First, I wrote a note to myself with the exact amount I still owed on the refinance and the new monthly payment I had been carrying. Second, I wrote down the names of every person connected to the lies. Tyler, Vanessa, Nina, Claire, Linda, Marcus, Vanessa's father. I wanted everything clear in my head. Third, I wrote one sentence in large, plain letters. Truth first, feelings second. I left that note by the bed and finally lay down around 2 in the morning. At 6:30 my phone rang. Tyler. I stared at the screen before answering. Hello. His voice sounded wrecked. Mom. I sat up slowly. What time is it? 6:30. I can see that. A shaky breath came through the line. I haven't slept. Neither have I. Silence. Then can I come up? I thought about saying no. But I did not. Yes. He was at the door less than 5 minutes later. He looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, his eyes swollen from crying or not sleeping or both. He had never looked less like a groom in his life. I opened the door and stepped aside. He came in slowly, as if he were entering a church after doing something unforgivable. I did not offer coffee, I did not offer comfort. I pointed to the chair by the window. Sit. He sat. I stayed standing. What have you decided? I asked. He rubbed both hands over his face, then lowered them. I cancelled the ceremony with the planner at 5 this morning. I nodded once. The planner or Nina? The hotel coordinator. Nina isn't answering. Not surprising. What did you tell them? That there would be no wedding, and that no one should be seated in the ballroom until I addressed the guests. Good. He looked up at me. I'm going to tell them. The truth. Yes. All of it. His jaw tightened. All of it. I studied him. He looked terrified. Good again. Let him feel the weight of honesty before he speaks it. Then he said something I was not expecting. I called the bank. That got my attention. And I asked about a personal loan restructure, and I called Marcus too. He said if I move into his spare room for a while, I can get rid of my apartment and cut costs. I'm going to start paying you back every month. I stared at him. Not because that fixed anything, it did not. but because it was the first practical step he had taken toward consequence. How much every month? I don't know yet, as much as I can. That's not a plan. He nodded. You're right, I'll make a real plan. I wanted you to know I'm not waiting anymore. I folded my arms. He looked at me with tears sitting in his eyes. Mom, I know words mean nothing right now. Less than nothing, I said. He flinched. Still he nodded. I know. We stood in that painful little truth for a moment. Then I asked, and Vanessa? His face hardened in a way I had not seen before, not arrogant, not defensive, clear. I texted her that it's over, completely. I told her not to contact me again. And if she does, I won't answer. I believed him. At least in that moment I did. I walked to the desk, picked up the envelope and held it up. His eyes fixed on it immediately. This, I said, was for a blessing, not a bailout, not a reward for lies, not a cushion after betrayal. He nodded, staring at it like it was a ghost. I know. I set it back down. It will not be yours. His face crumpled, but he did not argue. That mattered. At 7:15, Martin called up to the suite. Guests were beginning to gather downstairs for what they thought was a wedding breakfast before the ceremony. Some were already dressed. Some were asking questions because staff had quietly stopped final ballroom setup. I told him I would be down in 15 minutes. Tyler stood when I ended the call. Are you really coming? I looked at him. You wanted me hidden. Today I will be visible. He lowered his head. Okay. I changed into my pale blue dress, put on my pearls again and brushed my hair carefully. Not because I wanted to look grand, because I wanted to look like myself. Not the woman Vanessa invented, not the burden Tyler pushed aside, myself. When I came out of the bedroom, Tyler was standing by the window staring down at the street. He turned when he heard me and went still. That old memory came back again, 16-year-old Tyler before prom. Blue looks peaceful on you, Mom. For the first time since yesterday, I saw tears in his eyes that were not only for himself. I don't deserve you, he said quietly. No, I answered, you don't. Not right now. He nodded and looked away. We took the elevator down together. The lobby and breakfast hall area beyond it buzzed with low confusion. Women in dresses, men in jackets, elderly relatives with coffee cups, younger cousins checking phones, hotel staff gliding around with careful faces. Claire was there near the back, looking nervous in a beige sweater. Linda had come after all and stood beside her, arms folded, eyes sharp as nails. Marcus was there too, tall and tense, probably dragged in by Tyler's midnight confession. Vanessa was not there. Good. At the front of the room, near the floral arch meant for welcome photos, Tyler stopped walking. I kept moving and took a seat in the front row. Let him stand. Let him say it. Martin tapped a glass lightly for attention. The room quieted. Tyler stepped forward with no microphone. He did not need one. The silence was deep enough. Thank you all for coming, he began. His voice shook. He stopped, swallowed, and started again. Thank you all for coming. I owe everyone here the truth, and I should have told it sooner. A murmur moved across the room and then settled. The wedding is cancelled, he said. A few gasps, one woman covered her mouth. Somebody whispered, oh no. Tyler kept going before anyone could interrupt. It is cancelled because I made serious mistakes, and because the relationship I was about to enter was built on lies and dishonesty. But I need to be clear, this is not only about Vanessa. That got everyone's attention in a new way. He looked over at me, then back at the room. I lied to my mother. I used money she trusted me with under false pretenses. I let her be humiliated in this hotel, and I agreed to things that no son should agree to. The room went still. I saw Linda close her eyes briefly. Marcus looked down. Claire held her breath. Tyler's face twisted with shame, but he continued. My mother refinanced her home last year because I told her I needed help securing a place to live. That was not the full truth. I used much of that money to cover debt and made choices I was too ashamed to admit. Instead of confessing, I kept lying. Then when she came here for my wedding, I let her room be cancelled and let her be treated cruelly because I was afraid the truth would come out. The words landed exactly as they should. No decorations. No excuse. No blame shifting. Painful, plain, true. An older man near the back muttered, "Lord have mercy." Tyler kept his eyes on the room, not on me now. I also need to say that false things were said about my mother to family and guests. They were lies. She was not unstable. She was not drinking. She was not causing trouble. She showed up in love, and I repaid that love with betrayal. At that, a woman I recognized vaguely from Vanessa's side looked stunned. So the lies had spread farther than I knew. Tyler drew in a shaky breath. I don't expect forgiveness today. I don't deserve it. But I will not start another lie by pretending this is just a wedding that didn't work out. I caused harm, real harm, to the person who has loved me most in this world. He turned then. Not to the room. To me. And in front of everyone there, my son got down on one knee. Not like a groom. Like a broken man's. "Mom," he said, voice cracking open, "I am sorry, I was weak, I was proud. I was ashamed, and instead of being honest, I used your love like it was something I could spend. I cannot ask you to forgive me today. I only ask you to believe that I finally understand what I did." I felt every eye in the room move to me. This, I realized, was the revenge. Not screaming. Not public insults. Not throwing a drink. Not some dramatic slap. This, truth in daylight. Shame where comfort used to live. A son forced to look at the mother he wounded and name the wound himself. My chest hurt. Not with triumph exactly. With release. I stood slowly. Tyler stayed on one knee, crying openly now. I looked at the room before I looked at him. "I came here yesterday to celebrate my son," I said. "Instead, I learned how far lies can spread inside a family when people are more concerned with image than truth." The room stayed silent. I kept my voice steady. Regret does not begin when we get caught. It begins the moment we know we are doing wrong and do it anyway. My son crossed that line many times, so did the woman he planned to marry. But this morning he has done one honest thing. He has told the truth. I turned my full attention to Tyler. "That does not erase what happened." His shoulders shook. "I know. It does not restore my trust. I know. It does not remove the debt you owe me, financially or otherwise." He nodded through tears. "I know." I let the pause sit. Then I said the most honest thing I had. "But it is the first step." He looked up at me stunned. "Not forgiven. Not embraced. Just that. The first step. And sometimes the first step is more mercy than a person expected." I looked back at the room. The wedding is over, the lies are over. Whatever gossip comes after this, let it at least carry the truth. Linda, bless her brave mouth, said loudly from the second row, "Amen." A few awkward laughs broke the tension. Even I almost smiled. Almost. Then the room began to move. Quiet conversations, shocked faces, a cousin crying though I was not sure for whom, a few guests slipping out, others coming forward to speak to Tyler, to me, to Linda. Some offered comfort, some offered embarrassment dressed as sympathy. A few, mostly from Vanessa's side, disappeared quickly, which suited me fine. Martin approached and asked softly whether the hotel should continue serving breakfast, since much of it had already been prepared. I said yes. Waste had no place in this story. So people ate scrambled eggs and fruit and pastries under a cloud of truth, which felt strangely fitting. Life, even after public collapse, still asks whether you want tea or coffee. About 20 minutes later, Vanessa arrived. Of course she did. She came in like a woman who still thought she could control the room by entering it well dressed. White suit, dark sunglasses, chin up. Her father was with her now, a stiff man with silver hair and too much confidence. Conversation stopped. Vanessa removed her sunglasses and looked around. She saw the half-cleared decorations, the changed faces, the absent wedding joy, and then her eyes landed on Tyler. Then on me. What did you do? She asked him. Tyler stood straighter. I told the truth. Her father stepped forward. This is a private matter. There was no need to humiliate my daughter. I answered before Tyler could. Your daughter managed the humiliation herself quite well. He looked at me sharply. And you are. I held his gaze, the mother she tried to erase. That stopped him. Vanessa turned to Tyler furious. You let her do this. He said, calm now in a way I had not heard before. No. I did. Her face changed. She had not expected him to own anything. She had counted on his fear longer than she should have. She laughed once, but there was no confidence in it now. So that's it. You destroy everything because your mother cried and my cousin played hero. Tyler looked at her for a long moment. No, he said. I destroyed this when I became someone I'm ashamed of. That line cut deeper than any shout. Vanessa knew it too. She looked at me with open hatred. Are you happy now? I thought about the question. Happy? No. Satisfied. Partly. Heartbroken. Completely. But what I said was this. I'm relieved. That answer landed. She had no defense against relief, because relief is what comes when the truth finally stops being trapped under somebody else's lies. Her father muttered something about lawyers and defamation, which would have frightened me yesterday. Today it sounded like a man trying to sweep back the ocean with a broom. Clea stepped forward then, brave in a quiet way. I saved the messages, she said, all of them. Vanessa's father fell silent. Vanessa stared at her cousin with disgust. You really are dead to me. Clea's chin lifted. I can live with that. And there in that small sentence, I saw another life lesson. Sometimes the person who speaks late still saves something by speaking at all. Vanessa looked around one final time, saw there was no room left to win and left again, this time with her father following behind. The doors closed after them, and with that the storm truly passed. By noon most guests were gone. Some travelled home, some stayed in the hotel with altered plans. A few close family members lingered awkwardly, trying to decide whether this was a tragedy or a blessing. Maybe it was both. Linda and I sat together in the breakfast room after the crowd thinned. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You did well, she said. I did what was left to do. She nodded, that too. Across the room Tyler sat with Marcus and a notepad writing figures. Real ones, I hoped. Rent, debt, a repayment plan. He looked exhausted and older, but also more awake than I had seen him in years. He glanced over once. I did not smile, I did not wave, but I did not look away either. That was enough for now. Before Linda left, she hugged me hard and whispered, Do not make yourself small again for anybody. I promised her I would not. By early afternoon, I went back upstairs to the presidential suite one last time to collect my things. The room looked untouched except for my suitcase, the used teacup by the window, and the little note I had left on the bedside table. Truth first, feelings second. I folded the note and put it in my purse. Then Tyler knocked. I opened the door. He stood there holding a folder. I made a plan, he said. I let him in. He handed me the folder. Inside was a handwritten repayment schedule, a budget, the loan restructure confirmation, and a short letter. I read the letter last. Mom, I know paper cannot repair what I broke, but I need to stop being a man who says sorry with empty hands. I will repay every dollar. I will sell what I have to sell, work what I have to work, and live with what I chose until I make it right as much as I can. I also know money is not the deepest debt here. I am ashamed. Tyler. I closed the folder and looked at him. This is better than words, I said. His eyes filled again. That's all I have right now. No, I said, it's not. You also have consequence. Don't waste it. He nodded. Then, with the quiet caution of someone approaching a wounded animal, he asked, Will you let me drive you home? I thought about it. A day ago, I would have said yes because that is what mothers do. Now I ask myself what I actually wanted. And the answer came simple and clean. No, I said, I'm taking the train. He looked hurt, but he accepted it, another small sign of growth. All right. He moved toward the door, then stopped. I love you, he said. The words hurt because they were true. Love had not been the problem, weakness had, fear had, pride had. Love can exist inside terrible choices. That is what makes family betrayal so painful. I looked at my son. I know, I said, now learn how to act like it. He cried at that quietly and left. I checked out an hour later. Martin personally handled it. When he handed me the final receipt, he said, Mrs. Carter, for what it's worth, I think you carried yourself with remarkable dignity. I smiled a little. I didn't always feel dignified. Most of us don't when it matters most, he said. That was kind, and I thanked him. Outside, the afternoon air felt fresh in a way I had not expected. Not because everything was fixed. It was. I still had a refinance payment waiting at home. I still had trust broken in places that would take a long time to mend. I still had a son who had become a stranger before becoming honest again. But I also had something I did not have yesterday. I had the truth. A month later, Tyler made his first repayment. It was not large, but it was real. 2 months later, he sent another, along with proof he had sold his expensive watch and moved in with Marcus. He started therapy too, which Linda said was the first truly intelligent thing he had done in years. We did not return to normal. I would not let us. Normal was what had hidden the rot. Instead, we built something smaller and slower. Short phone calls, careful truth, no borrowed money, no rushed forgiveness. Some Sundays we spoke, some Sundays we didn't. Regret needs time to do its work, and so does healing. As for Vanessa, I heard she left for Boston anyway, then lost the job connection her father had been arranging after the cancelled wedding became a very uncomfortable story in the wrong circles. I did not celebrate that. Life had already made my point for me. The $10,000 check went back into a new account in my own name. A savings account titled Peace. I am not joking, that is really what I named it. And the first thing I paid for from that account was not Tyler's future. It was my own. I replaced the furnace, fixed the porch steps, and in the fall, for the first time in my life, I took a small trip by myself to Charleston. I sat by the water, drank sweet tea, and realized something that should have come to me years earlier. Being needed is not the same thing as being loved. That lesson cost me plenty. But I learned it. If this story touched you, take 1 second to like, comment, and subscribe, because some lessons are painful, but they might help somebody else sooner than they helped us. As for my son, he is still learning that regret is not a feeling you cry through once. It is a debt you live differently because of. And me. I am still his mother. But I am finally also on my own side. That in the end was the truest revenge of all.